So, hi everyone. I'm Terry with In My Sister's Living Room. I'm here with my sister girl, LaShonda. Hey, how are you, dear?
I am doing well. How are you?
Good, great. Thanks. Thanks for spending the time with us. For those that don't know, In My Sister's Living Room is a community of women that we come together in prayer or discussion or just opportunity to encourage one another in getting our roots grounded even greater in our faith. So today, I wanted to chat with you about obedience.
Mhm.
And a lot of times I have this discussion with people, and it seems like it starts to go down a couple of channels when they feel like they're not being obedient. And a lot of times it falls into categories such as delayed obedience, not being obedience, and begrudging obedience isn't necessarily obedience. And I heard you talk about compliance versus obedience. And I find that very intriguing. Can you share your perspective on that thought process?
Yeah, absolutely. I was actually preparing for bringing the word at a Sunday service. And yeah, I have said throughout my life numerous times, I'm going to avoid Jonah experiences, which means ultimately, when God tells me to do something, I'm going to do it. But it usually also comes with me trying to negotiate, me trying to rationalize, me being like, okay, I hear what you're saying, God, but can we do it this way? But I would always say, but I avoid Jonah experiences because I I'm not trying to be in the belly of a whale or whatever the equivalent is. And as I was actually in the shower thinking about the message I was going to bring, and what he said to me was, not avoiding Jonah experiences doesn't get there by just doing what I tell you to do. Obedience helps you to do that, and not just compliance. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. What do we mean here? So compliance, as I began to look into it and listen and just think about it, compliance is doing what you're told.
Mm-hmm.
When we work in various fields, we have compliance officers. There are people who are solely employed to make sure that the organization or the business or the employees of it are doing what they're told.
Right.
But what's void in compliance is often the relationship that is embedded with obedience.
Correct. Correct.
So when we begin to think about, when I'm saying, I'm gonna do what I'm told because I don't want to get in trouble, is pretty much what I was saying, which sounds very immature. And it is this space of me of like, I don't want to get in trouble. I began to think about obedience, and even scripture when it talks about obedience being greater than sacrifice,
Absolutely.
right? That when I am obedient, it is because I'm in relationship with, it is a trust that I have that ultimately what I'm being asked to do is for the benefit of the kingdom. It is going to be in the best interest of all. All things work together for the good. When I am obedient, I am in service to that good.
Yes.
And that can be very different than the compliant that sometimes can lead me outside of obedience because I'm trying to get it right. I'm trying to make a determination based off of an interpretation I have of something I'm looking at.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can be in relationship and be obedient to where he has me going, it sometimes takes off the sting of, gotta do it right. Oh my God, am I compliant with this? When I can just kind of settle into the relationship and listen. So those are some of the dynamics that I find very different in those
Yeah.
things.
And I love how you talk about the relationship piece of it, because in that relationship piece, it also gets to our heart. It gets to, if I'm in relationship with God, I'm doing this because my heart is aligned, and I love what he loves. I desire to do what he desires, as opposed to, fine, I'll do it.
I guess, with our rolled eyes and our doing them. Okay, fine. And I realize that in a lot of ways, I think I walk in obedience in a lot of ways. And
Mm-hmm.
there were some other ways that I was strictly compliant. and and being able to know that there's a difference. It hadn't hit me like that before. As long as I was doing it, no matter how, I thought I was being obedient. And now it helps me to see that there are areas that I need to move over into obedience. And it does remind me of the letter of the law versus the spirit of the law.
Amen.
Right? There's the letter of the law of, don't mix those fabrics, and and don't eat this food, right? And all of those things that come from a very compliant state. When we are not compliant, there are consequences. But when we are in disobedience, it leads to disappointment. And I want to give credit to my husband for that one, because as we were talking about it before this, he said it. I'm like, oh, I see you over there. That's good, right? Because when it's compliant, it's, I don't want the consequence. I don't want the negative consequence of not doing as I'm told. But when we're in relationship and someone is disobedient, meaning the heart that we are supposed to be sharing, the alignment and attunement that we're supposed to be walking in together, there's a disappointment. There's a fracture of some sort that happens when we move in that space. And we can think about that in a lot of our relationships that we have with people we're close to, right? If you don't do something, there are things like with my children, when they're not compliant with certain things, they can get hurt pretty bad if they're not looking both ways before crossing the street, or they're touching a stove that's hot. There are consequences that can lead to significant damage to them or to relationship. But when I've asked them to do something, or I've asked them to be a certain way within a space, and they're disobedient, it's less about the immediate consequence of you're going to get in trouble or you're going to be burned or hit by a car, but it's more of the disappointment that you don't understand that as your mom, the reason why I'm asking you to do this is because I can see something you can't.
Yeah.
And I think that's what comes down to the obedience when we're talking about our relationship with God, is that he has the view that we couldn't possibly see.
Exactly.
His attempt for obedience for us is to lead us in spaces, in things we couldn't even consider before. And that's helped me to realize that with compliance, stop trying to not get burned and realize that when I move into this space, I can be going in directions I couldn't have thought of, but he sees a bigger picture than I do.
Exactly. And that's the important thing. It's like when you were talking earlier about you would engage in a negotiation, it's like we're negotiating from zero. You know what I mean? We have zero on our side because we don't know what he knows. We can't see what he sees. So it's like, why are you wasting your time negotiating? So I think that's lovely when you're talking about the whole relationship and the disappointment and all of that. So for anyone who finds themselves, like we often do, in that, hey, yeah, I've just been being compliant. What kind of advice would you give?
Well, I will share this. What it did for me is, one, it made me stop and think, how did I get to this space? And when I was self-reflective, what I realized is oftentimes I was treating daddy based on the relationships with humans that I've had, which means in my particular life, I have not always been able to trust the adults in my life to keep me safe. Okay. And I have had to make decisions all the way back going to a little child that was sometimes in opposition of what I was maybe being steered towards, because intuitively I realized this could be dangerous for me. And that's a history of trauma and sexual abuse and things that I've had in my life. So what I began to realize is sometimes I was erring on the side of compliance because I didn't trust that God was going to ultimately take care of me the way he does because of the experiences I've had. I would advise that people are possibly not in this state because they are like sticking their tongue out or rolling their necks and crossing their hands in front of him, but they have had some real life experiences that put them in this space where true obedience is difficult and hard and scary. And so my advice is I want to acknowledge that, but I also want to encourage people to lean into the fact that he does care for us, he does trust us, and he can heal those old wounds that make moving into obedience in relationship with him challenging. Yes. If we just try it. Like, he can prove on so many levels that he is the lover of our souls and that he will take care of us. And so it's not about shame. Don't shame yourself. If you find, oh God, I can't believe it. Now that we acknowledge it, now that we know, let's move towards the direction of obedience. And I truly believe that we'll be happier, healthier, and more blessed because of it.
Amen. Thank you. That's beautiful. That's beautiful advice. And I love how you're saying that it's okay to acknowledge what's causing that, as well as don't take on the shame. Yeah,
Nope.
that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for being open with us. I think those are beautiful nuggets that people can take away and help them, walk out this journey and also feel that we never arrive, right?
What's that?
Exactly. As long as we're on this earth, we are still all going to walk out that obedience walk. So don't be so hard on yourselves.
Have grace.
That's right. So I will say to everyone again, if you want to get in touch with us, imslr5@gmail.com for prayer requests or topics. And also check out our YouTube channel where this video and others are found. And I want to say I love you. Thank you so much for spending time
I
with
love
us.
you.
And blessings to you. And for everyone else, also check out Deuteronomy 28, because it'll run down all the blessings of obedience. And really, I love that chapter. So, all right. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.